Hey, ladies. Are there any men in here? There's always a man that sneaks in. I think it's this other girl. Yeah, there he is. Okay.
Monique, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. This is so exciting.
It is.
And it's actually like so apropos that this is the day of the show premiering tonight.
Yes.
I want to ask a million questions about that, but before we get into the show and the present, I want to go back. I want to take it back. So a lot of us are starting in the entrepreneurship space, trying to figure out, when to make that step. And as a former editor-in-chief of Essence, I want to know, at what point did you realize like this going into making ends or going into hospitality was something that you wanted to do? And then when did you know it was a viable business where it was something you could make money? Did you do a business plan? What was that beginning step?
Okay. So I had the privilege of being editor-in-chief of Essence magazine, and I was already running my bed and breakfasts when I came to Essence. I had the one in Brooklyn, New York, which I started in 1995, and I always believed that you needed to have a job on the side. Not really a job, your own thing. Most of us had a 9-to-5, or maybe still have one, but I believe in multiple streams of income, so I always had the bed and breakfast. I considered myself profitable the day I opened because I live in the inn. I live on top of the store. So it only cost me a little bit more money to buy a few more extra eggs to have a bed and breakfast. So the business allowed me to live in this gorgeous mansion that I fell in love with. So we live on the top floor, and then there are 4 guest rooms on the second floor, and then the first floor is all common space. There's a ballroom, a dining room, the living room, the kitchen, which is the kitchen for our family as well as for the bed and breakfast. We don't have zone heating, so I had to heat the whole house anyway. So a little bit more water for folks to take showers, a couple more eggs to make breakfast, and I was in business. So I consider myself profitable day one. Having the bed and breakfast was also a way of having an amazing tax write-off. So I can write off my utilities, everything. I never get a full roll of toilet paper, but that's okay. I get the ends when it's too little in the guest room. So I consider that to be profitable. Now, could I live off of it? Probably not. It was a passion business, a lifestyle business, and more importantly, a way to acquire real estate. So I think it was the owner of McDonald's that once said he's not in the hamburger business, he's in the real estate business. And in truth, that's my story as well. The equity that I've been able to build up in the mansion is far greater than the income that I derive from running it as a B&B. But so in the process of buying the mansion, and they sent me a note, said, talk about numbers as much as you can, be honest, be transparent. I'm like, okay. So I bought the bed and breakfast in Brooklyn, in Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn, before the whole gentrification craze. It is a 5,000 square foot mansion, so I want you to get ready to pick your jaw up. $225,000. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, as an entrepreneur, right, it means that we have to have some measure of vision. And for me, Brooklyn, and this particular location only being a 20-minute subway ride to Manhattan, it was bound to happen. It had to. I'm in a historic district, Stuyvesant Heights, which means that, you can't just put a carport in your front yard. You can't put green astroturf down your steps. Some of the stuff we sometimes do. You can't do that in a historic district. And so I thought that means that the integrity of this community is solid. And the more that I got to learn the neighbors, I realized that, these are folks just like me and you, strivers, people who are trying to build a better way, and their greatest asset is their home. And so I thought it made sense, even though, the kids used to call it the haunted house. It was, it was in really, really bad shape. But $225,000. So when I look at my business now, my greatest asset is the real estate. My most recent offer was $7.5 million. And in truth, there are days when I wonder, like, you sure you want to scramble these eggs this morning? Be much easier to just take that check. But, you know, that's why the business made sense from day one. Now, when I made the decision to leave Essence, that was a more difficult decision to make. At that time, I still only had that one bed and breakfast. And I made the decision to leave because at the end of the day, I always had this really long list of things to do. How many people make lists? Do you write down what you, I love it, right? I cannot live without the list. I do mine at night because I need to put all that's up here somewhere, and I put it on a piece of paper, and then I can really sleep well at night. And then I wake up in the morning with a clear set of intentions of what I intend to get done. And so the problem was I never showed up on the list of things to do. Never showed up. And when I went to Essence initially, I came as a style director. And see, I've already looked around this audience. I can see how stylish you are. That was really challenging for me to represent the flair and fashion of Black women. I already couldn't get the free clothes because I was not the model size, right? So I had to really pay for my clothes. And I already had decided that it was much more important for me to spend my Benjamins on bricks instead of my backside, you know? And so being the fashion editor was a really hard job for me. And so I didn't represent well, quite honestly, because I just never showed up on my own list of things to do. So when it became clear to me that I had to make a decision between the magazine and my sanity and my business, I chose to build the business because at the end of the day, legacy building. And I knew that I couldn't leave a job to my daughter, but I could leave her business in a portfolio of real estate.
So I want to also talk about financial milestones. You talk about this list that you make every night and sort of like goals or things on your to-do list. So let's go from like maybe 94 prior to buying it up until you maybe launched the first or the second location. Were there certain things you did in your mind, or you said to yourself, let me put aside this amount of money every month? How did you financially build to get to open it and then expand?
Well, I've always been one to live beneath her means. It is so critical. I was raised that way. And I'm thrifty. I don't know, I think that's a nice way of saying cheap. I'm very thrifty. And so, yeah, so I'm a saver and I'm a planner. So I was real clear about that. I also remember the first time I tried to use credit, although I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I moved to New York and I was fed up with working late and yellow cabs not taking me across the bridge to Brooklyn. So I just decided I gotta buy a car. So I went home, I'm from Washington, D.C., and I went home during the holiday and I said, I've got to buy a car because I can't do the subway. I didn't know what I want to do the subway at night. The cabs won't pick me up. And so I went with my mom to go and buy a car. And I was very proud of myself because I knew I had good credit. I just knew it, right? Well, to my surprise, the guy came back, the salesman came back and he said, we have a little bit of a problem because of your credit. I said, I know, right? I don't owe anybody anything, right? Right? Yeah, and that's the problem. You don't have any credit. Zero, okay? But I was always raised by daddy who said, you know, if you don't have the money, you don't need it. You can't afford it, you don't buy it. We didn't do credit cards. So I didn't even understand that. So my mother, I said, well, Mom, can you help? What about you? And she sat there in a panic. And she said, I have credit cards. And that was the problem. She had credit debt. So I bought my car at way too high interest rate. And so I learned a lesson from that. So I went out and I opened up my credit cards. I have credit with everybody. I have mortgages with everybody. I'm an equal opportunity loan person, whatever you want to call it. However, I was really clear, and I still am clear because I got my daddy in my ear about credit. So I do have, I got an 830 credit score. because I don't want to owe anybody anything. So I use my credit card and then I pay my credit card off because I have to keep my credit clean. And it's the way that I was actually able to buy the mansions, because as a self-employed person, banks sometimes don't understand us, right? They're asking for a W-2. A what? There's no W-2. Now, I know that business experts would tell you that you should put yourself on the payroll. I have yet to do that. So I don't pay myself. I can take an owner's draw when I need to have a little money in my pocket. I can do that, right? But I don't have a paycheck. So, banks find that very difficult, a difficult concept. So what they used to have, you could do stated income when you were buying real estate. If anybody's in real estate or banking, they know when you can do stated income. Well, you could do that if you had an 820, 830 credit score. They didn't really care. So you do stated income. So I would say, well, how much do I have to make to be able to buy this? And they say, oh, X, Y, Z. I say, yeah, put that down. That's what I'm stating, X, Y, Z. Put that down. And it was just that easy. And so things became more difficult with subprime lending and all of that. But I forgot the question. What was I talking about?
No, you were answering it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
your credit. And
so,
then,
so basically what I did to grow the business, that was the question. What I did was I pulled the equity out of the first piece of real estate and bought the next piece of real estate. And every time that I bought the mansions to expand the business, I would buy them as my personal home, is what I would say. Yes, I'm relocating, and I'm gonna live here. And I wouldn't say nothing about a bed and breakfast. No business, this is gonna be my home. Because I was able to get homeowner's mortgage versus a commercial mortgage. So you gotta put down like 30% at least when it's commercial, 20% typically if it's your residential. So that's how I was able to do it. I was not able to do it with the mansion at Noble Lane, which is the new property that you saw that's in the show, because nobody would believe that I'm gonna live in this 26,000 square foot mansion on 22 acres of land, and yes, I have a pool house, yes, that's how I'm living. No, nobody was gonna believe that. So I had to come clean, and I needed a whole lot more money than what I would need to just buy a house or a dilapidated mansion that I'm gonna fix up. And that's where understanding the numbers came in. And I couldn't run it that way anymore. I couldn't do it that way anymore. And the numbers was the piece that I always struggled with. And so you have to know what you know and what you don't know, and then find somebody who can back you up. So I believe in all these programs. I have to tell you, there's so many resources out there for all of you all as entrepreneurs. I've done them all. I was the Clinton Foundation. I don't know if they're still doing their program, but I was a Clinton Fellow. It was for free. You got paired with a mentor. In fact, they selected a couple of students who they paired with a consultant from Booz Allen. Like, I couldn't afford that, right? So I had my little consultant. I told him about this project. This is what I wanted to work on. And when I went to go to meet with the bank, it was the first time I ever went to go to talk to a banker to ask for money. I was scared, I had my little business plan. I did have a business plan. And I did the business plan. I did a program, 10,000 Small Businesses. Anybody do that program? Goldman Sachs? Yeah, there's one. Okay. I did the 10,000 Small Businesses program. Look it up. You need to be one of those 10,000 small businesses. A great, great program. I did that. So I wanted to go, I had to get money first time, and I had my business plan. I had my passion, because that does sell you. I'm in front of the banker, and I'm telling, he was like, what are you selling? Because I'm buying. Now let's look at your numbers. And then that's when I get nervous. And I had a code with my consultant. We had a little code. I said, if I blink my eyes 3 times, I don't know the answer. Jump in. And so that's where, I did a lot of blinking when it was about numbers. I just blinked. He said, well, what Ms. Greenwood wants you to understand is, I said, yes, that's what Ms. Greenwood wants you to understand. And that's how that happened. Because I was still fuzzy on that piece. For me, because I do live beneath my means, and because I understand that ultimately I'm investing in real estate, which is gonna pay me nicely, I just wanted to make enough money to live. And so when I left Essence and left my